Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching season 3 of the Crystal Petry Podcast. Today's episode is a great episode for anyone who is in leadership or that is your goal to become a leader because we have Nick Rella, and he is going to educate us all about the leadership mindset and leadership habits. Welcome to the podcast, Nick.
Crystal, thank you very much. It's an honor to be on your podcast, and I'm a big fan of your show. So thank you for having us on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, Nick, you are an award winning, and dare I say, many award winning leadership coach. So, thank you for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Where in the world are you, Nick?
So we are in Northwest New Jersey, a little small town in Denville, New Jersey, about, I would say, 45 minutes west of New York City.
Okay, then. Okay, so Nick, let's get into it. Can you give us a little bit of your background about how you got into the leadership space and the leadership coaching space?
Sure. So happy to, Crystal. So I started my career in accounting and finance many years ago, and totally enjoyed that opportunity just to understand business as a whole and just understanding profits and revenues and expenses and balance sheets and P&Ls. So I enjoyed that, did that for a few years, and then transitioned over into the healthcare space. And I've been in the healthcare ever since. And in a leadership capacity, I would say now for about 25 years, had the opportunity to build teams from scratch, restructure teams, to launch in my career over 15 pharmaceutical brands.
Wow.
And over the course of that time frame, Crystal, I love leadership so much, and I'll tell you a story about how that evolved. But I love leadership so much that I started to become a student of it. And during that time frame, became a certified master leadership coach. And also, I know this is kind of up your alley as well, a public speaking coach.
Yes.
I just find that those things are important in terms of leadership and getting people to where they want to be in their career.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are, 25 years later, and love what I do every day.
Nick, would you say, because I feel like it does, that leadership and public speaking really go hand in hand?
I would say so, absolutely. So understanding how to present to an audience, right? And really get them to understand what you're trying to communicate and putting yourself in their shoes, right? How to make the information appealing, exciting, informative, and not losing their attention. I think it's a critical component to leadership in itself, and it's a critical investment of time that you could put into yourself in order to be able to not only learn that skill but be able to execute it as well.
Absolutely. Nick, so my next question is a two-part question. What is your leadership philosophy? And was there a defining moment that shaped that leadership philosophy?
Yeah, so I'll start with the defining moment. We were fortunate enough early in our career to be part of an organization that truly believed that the single biggest impact an organization can have is their focus on leadership development and teaching their people about leadership. So that investment really, I would say, formulated kind of my philosophy on leadership. It really made me very interested in it. The training involved that they put us through really made me excited about doing the role. And I think that's an important component that many organizations need to think about, right? How much time and investment are they putting in to their people in order to build them for
Yes.
future success? So that was a great impact for me, and that kind of shaped my love for it. And in terms of my, answering that second part of that question, Crystal, I think in defining a philosophy, it needs to, from my perspective, it needs to be people first, right? Just your investment of time in not only becoming a student, but putting your people first. And if you could build everything else around that. But if people are not first, you're not going to be able to motivate them, train them, get them to execute the things that need to be executed on.
There is such a huge return on investment, Nick, when companies invest in their people. You can never go wrong when you do that.
I 100% agree with that. And yes, it does take time away from, it's training, it's dedicated time, it's an investment of dollars and resources. But there's the takeaway and the return on investment could be immense. And getting people to buy in, hey, it's okay to take a week off to send our leaders to training, right? And organizations that do that find long-term success, and also find that you can retain your talent. And that's an important, compelling moment. If
Yes.
people don't feel valued and that they are being invested in so they could do their job better, they may seek elsewhere to find that.
Nick, who are some of your mentors that has helped and shaped your journey in this leadership space?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Crystal. And so here's kind of a learning moment for me early on. I wish someone would have told me, Nick, you probably need to get a coach of your own. And even if it's an out-of-pocket investment, and don't solely rely on what the organization or your leader, your upline manager, the information and the training that they're providing. Look elsewhere for it. So for me now, I have a personal coach. I have mentors outside of the organization that I work for, people that I reach out to and try to learn from them, right? And if you build those relationships, they're more than happy to provide you with some sort of information that can help you in your journey. So having mentors within, outside organization, and my biggest advice to young and up and coming leaders is invest in yourself. And if that means paying out of pocket for it, do it, because it's an investment worthwhile.
What are some misconceptions, Nick, about leadership?
Yeah, so I think people think, well, are you born as a leader? And no, I
No.
think leadership is a skill.
Yes.
It's a skill that needs to be learned. And if that's something that you could wrap your brain around, right? It's a skill. And just like anything else, you could learn it. So
Yes.
the biggest misconception is that, can I learn that skill? And I believe that anyone can, with the right time, with the right tenure, with the right coach. And also, it's okay to fail. I remember early on in my career, and this is probably back to your first question about what defined, is it's okay to fail. Like if you fail,
Wow.
it's okay. And if you fail and you've acknowledged and you've learned something and you could catch yourself and change something that you've done or you're doing to make yourself better, it's okay to fail. And having some support staff to help you when you do fail is a critical component.
Do you think, Nick, and I've heard this numerous times, and maybe you have too, that when you fail or if you fail, but you learn something from your failure, then you haven't truly failed?
Absolutely. Yes. So it is part of it, even though you failed at whatever it is that you were trying to do.
Right.
We would call it failing forward, right?
Yes.
You failed, but you've learned something from it. So really, did you really fail? It's more of a learning opportunity. So I agree with that comment.
How does leadership responsibility shift as you rise through the ranks?
Yeah. So Look, so overall, I think in terms of your responsibility, it's grander. Obviously, as you move up through the organization, you're responsible for more functions, right?
Correct.
Potentially even more revenue, right? That you're responsible in managing. But the bottom line, the skill in leadership, whether you're a first line leader or an executive leader, the skill really is, if you have that people first mentality,
Yes.
it really doesn't change, right? In terms of managing things, obviously, the grander it is, the more responsibility you have, that shifts. But also, I personally think that you need to surround yourself with great talent. And if you could find that talent and really feed that talent what they're looking for, number one, they're not going to want to leave the organization. And number two, they feel like they're being valued and they will contribute more. So yeah, as you move up through the ranks, the responsibility change, but the actual skill still remains the same. Are you having those conversations with your people? Or do you care about their growth? Do you care about their development? Are you having those genuine conversations with them so they could feel that? And that essentially is that skill that really is consistent throughout as you move through the ranks.
As I was preparing for this interview, Nick, and I have been waiting to speak with you, I was reading that the majority of people who leave a company or stay at a company, it's not because of the paycheck or how much they make. It's because, do they feel valued? Do they feel heard by leadership? That's why they stay or leave, because they don't feel valued and they don't feel heard by leadership. Of course, some other things are in there, but those are the main components.
If people like who they work for and they build that relationship, yeah, it's 100% almost guaranteed that you're gonna retain that talent. People want to work for people they like, right? And if they are feeling valued as well. Then on top of all that is designing the culture that as a leader you want to build for your team. And as that leader, you're not the only one responsible for building that culture and getting to the grassroots of the organization and asking them about what they envision a culture should look like, involving them in building the framework of that culture is quintessential to not only keeping them in the organization, because now they feel like they have skin in the game, like we're building this culture together.
Correct.
And again, that value comes in, that value proposition that I feel valued. I want to be here. I want to see the company succeed. We want to produce more revenue for the organization. And in turn, we'll be benefited for that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about leadership mindset and habits, Nick. What are some daily habits or rituals that keep you focused as a leader?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I like to do with our teams is very simple. In the morning. Well, first and foremost, I'm a big believer in you need to take care of yourself, right? First of all, you need to feed yourself that inspiration that you need. So, what motivates you on a daily basis, and then start thinking about your health, right? Are you exercising? Are you eating well? So that first and foremost, you need to be able to lead from the front. You need to feel good about you and put yourself in that mindset. And then secondly, some of the habits that you could secondarily is how am I motivating my team? So early morning motivational messages to your team, something optimistic, something positive that gets them off on the right foot early in the day. And then constant communication of how you could be of service to them.
I love how you put that.
I'm a big believer in servant leadership. There's a book out there on servant leadership, highly recommend it. But it just puts leaders in a situation where you want to help them succeed. And if they hear that message from you, they're thinking, well, Nick is leading from the front. The leader is leading from the front. They're vested in my success,
Yes.
and they genuinely are open now to communicate with you. So if you leave those doors open where people can communicate with you rather than saying, do I really want to bother my boss, right, with this one? Yeah. And so if that communication is open, people are more, people take advantage of it. And that's another way how you build that unified team approach and that culture of open communication. So those are a couple of things that I like to do over the course of a day. And I took it over a course of a day because I think you're in the moment. And once you're in those conversations with people, if they could feel that you genuinely are listening, right? That's the other part of it. Are you genuinely, do your actions say that my leader is listening to my concern?
So important.
And then come back with some sort of, if they don't have a solution for it, then how do you help them formulate a solution to whatever the situation might be? So listening to them, again, builds that value proposition as well.
Nick, as a leader, how do you stay grounded and authentic when you are in a leadership role?
So I would say the way you stay grounded is you're never too big to do the little roles, any role, right? So although you're the expert, you could be the expert. You don't have to be. I'm not a big believer in you have to know everything that your team knows. For example, if they're good at project management, then if you have people that are good at project management, let them do their project management. You don't have to be the expert, right? But if you surround yourself with different talents, diverse talents, and feed into that, let them be the experts, if you will, and you feed off of that. I think that keeps me kind of authentic, that I don't need to know everything,
Right.
but I do need to have an understanding of everything and let people do their role. And all I do is like to tweak things. What if, and I always like to ask, what if? What if we think about it this way? What if we changed a resource or invested in something a little differently? And ask that question of them to see what kind of responses. I think they learn, we all learn as a team from those types of communications.
I also think, Nick, that what if question, which I absolutely love, will encourage them to dig a little deeper, perhaps be a little more creative with their ideas and positioning in the company. That's huge, the what if,
Yeah,
instead of just telling them.
right. And we, as leaders, we love to be able to tell them what needs to be done because we don't have time. So when time is of the essence, you go into direct mode, right? And direct mode is, well, let me tell you what needs to be done so we could get on with our day and I could get on to a different topic.
Yes.
So that becomes your agenda versus if you ask what if and what else can we do? What are your thoughts about a solution or a concept? It gets them to think. It gets them to come up with something. Now, even if they come up with something that may not be what you were thinking, it gives you an opportunity to talk through it a little bit better, ask more questions, and come up with a solution that is worth trying, right? Is worth implementing. But if they come up with the answers and if they come up with the idea and they're innovative in their approach, now it's theirs versus yours. So they have more responsibility to say, well, I need to prove what my suggestion was. So they'll work harder to prove it versus you telling them. And now what happens is it was your idea, not theirs, right? So if it fails or falls short and the energy may not be there for them to execute on it, so now it's easy for them to potentially give up on it.
I'm in such agreement with you in this conversation, Nick. Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, so what does emotional intelligence have to do with leadership today. And I feel like emotional intelligence is another skill that's a learned skill, as you were talking about earlier.
Yes. Emotional intelligence is, I mean, they call it soft skills. I
Mhm.
think potentially it could be hard skills for some people. It's something that it's highly recommended that organization invest in because they're considered soft skills. Sometimes it kind of goes on the back burner, and I think that's wrong. I think those types of emotional intelligence skills are critical, especially for the entire organization, but especially for leaders, because they need to understand what motivates people, what gets people to do things better, and to really care about their roles. That only comes from emotional intelligence. So I would say it should be, if not number one or two, certainly in the top three in terms of training and development of any leadership type of responsibility.
Nick, can you quickly give us the definition of soft skills versus hard skills?
Yeah. So, for example, learning how to deal with people would be soft skills, right? Learning how to have conversations and communications with people uh, could, uh, are considered soft skills. Hard skills is I need to learn accounting, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of a hard skill
Hmm.
where it's a different type of skill and it's a matter of fact. This is how it's done, et cetera. Manufacturing. There's certain things in a manufacturing line that have to be done. Those are hard skills. So soft skills are more touchy feely, if you will, but they're a critical component to long-term success for leadership. So I would say in the top three, if there was a development, uh, you know, top three list for any organization, emotional intelligence should be on the top of their list. And there are many organizations that teach it,
Hmm.
um, but certainly important.
How do you personally handle high pressure decision making, which comes along with leaders?
Yeah. So first rule, I mean, one rule I believe in is the 24-hour rule, right?
Okay.
Just waiting, like a knee jerk reaction to a high pressure situation is never a good thing because you're probably going to wind up changing that 2 hours later. And I've seen organizations that have knee jerk responses to when there's a crisis, but waiting 24 hours, if time allows you, highly
Hmm.
recommended because it gives you a chance to kind of dig in a little bit, understand what the problem is, maybe counsel with some people, find out what the root cause is. Maybe it requires contacting a customer, contacting the people that deal with customers.
Hmm.
It just gives you time to really formulate the right response. So the 24-hour rule, I think, is quintessential. And it just gives time for it to analyze the situation more in depth, and also it gives you time to pull in a support system to handle those high stress situations. And from that, I think if you could follow those, kind of those three things: is wait 24 hours, analyze the situation carefully, pull in support system, and then come up with some sort of resolution to what it is that you're dealing with. Is kind of been my motto of doing it, and it's worked rather well. I personally love pulling in other people because you get to hear the real issues and potentially even some ideas on solutions.
And a lot of times they're outside of the situation. So sometimes they can assess it better than you, who is directly involved in whatever situation or high pressure decision that you're making.
Yeah, that's so true, Crystal, because it gives you that opportunity, right? And sometimes, think about it. The knee jerk reaction solution is kind of your decision, right? If you're responding within 15 minutes of hearing a problem, even though you might think you have the answer, just taking the time to really understand it is best practice, in my opinion.
Nick, how do you identify leadership potential in other people?
Yeah. So a lot of it, obviously, if it's your hiring,
Mm-hmm.
great. I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in providing people within the organization to grow as leaders, right? Versus going outside to bring in talent. Take
Mm-hmm.
care of your talent within. There's a lot of people within your organization that aspire to be leaders. So a big mistake an organization can make is go outside or have the mentality to go outside first. There's a lot of people within. And I think you identify these people based on, can they lead others maybe without authority? So if you see that skill in action, I think it clearly identifies that person as someone that could be molded, cultivated, grown into be a future leader. Um, and they may be sitting right within your organization. So I'm a big proponent of hiring within,
Mm-hmm.
promoting within before going outside. Now there might be some opportunities that where you don't have a certain skill set or an expertise in an area where you need to go outside, right, to go fill that. But there's a lot of opportunities within the organization. The other piece is, even though someone may not be an expert in a certain area,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they've shown really good learning agility.
Yes.
And why not give that person an opportunity to learn something totally different? And you, as their leader, just simply needs to invest time in maybe teaching them whatever that expert area is, or find someone that they could learn from within your team or within your organization that could teach them. But if they have very good learning agility, these are people that if you don't feed them these opportunities, there's a good probability that they could leave the organization. And if you highly value them and they have that learning agility, you want to keep them because you don't know where they could end up within the organization based on the fact that they've shown that capability. So for me, are they able to lead without authority? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first hallmark area. If they are, then do they show learning agility? And if they do, you have a considerably a very talented person on that team.
What would you say, Nick, are some key qualities to look for when developing someone into a leadership role?
Yeah. So communication, can they communicate?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can they think? Can they think on their feet? Right? Do they have the ability to come up with solutions?
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a good one.
yeah.
Yes.
Can they come up with solution? Are they innovative in their approach? Are they using, are they using outside sources? Are they learners? Right? Do they, are they reading? Are they trying to become better at their role and their capability? Are they building on their capabilities? And try to identify what their strengths are. So we all have like innate strengths that we're really good at. And what are they? So if you could build a team that has different strengths and really shine a light on them,
Mm-hmm.
meaning if they're really good at, I don't know, if they're really good at emotional intelligence, well, let's make sure that people that are not good at that are learning from the strength of that individual.
Yes.
So building a diverse team of various strengths. And as you hire people, you may want to consider, what am I missing on my team that we need to bring in to provide value to others that may not have that strength. So looking at strengths and leaning in on them could be another hallmark area
Mm-hmm.
that you look at to try to improve the overall strength of your team.
And Nick, I am a huge sports person, and I feel like this is something that your basketball, your football, your baseball coaches do. They look at, obviously, they look at the person, but what can this person bring to the team that I don't already have? What's the missing piece? So they're always asking themselves that to make their team a better team. And it's the same thing in the boardroom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all have, people that have various strengths. The key is, are we identifying them?
Nick, tell us one leadership mistake that you have made that has taught you a valuable lesson.
Ooh, that's a good one, Crystal. Leadership mistake. I would say providing trust before, I would say providing trust to someone before giving them an opportunity to prove that I should be trusting them. So for example, so that was a good, I remember it pretty nicely in the back of my mind here, where you kind of trust someone they could do something. However, without really pressure testing that a little bit, can they do a certain job before you extend 100% trust that it's going to get done? And that comes from just conversations, giving them small tasks to do to see how the outcome comes from that task.
Yes.
Before you provide implicitly, 100% trust in them. So that's a good learning opportunity for many leaders, especially new leaders that are going into a leadership capacity.
How do you align leadership with a strong sense of purpose and mission?
Aligning leadership with a strong sense of purpose. So so I would say, as a leader, you have to define what your style is. Like, what is going to be your style to motivating people, right? To getting results, and defining a purpose that you believe in, that you feel that people are going to want to be a part of that purpose, right? So having that vision. So as a leader, we all create, a vision for the future, right? Clear direction for the future.
Yes.
And the buy-in from that is critical, right? So what keeps me kind of combining the two is, am I providing a vision that our teams can buy into? And is it purposeful? In other words, is there something at the end of the day that they're going to get from that vision in that direction? And if it's solely based on, here's a vision and direction and there's zero buy-in, then the probability of that occurring is certainly less. Now, you could get through it and you could force people to buy into your vision and direction, but it's better served if that vision and direction is understood fully, why we're heading in this direction, why these decisions are being made.
Yes.
And then the feedback is, hey, we're aligned. Are there any tweaks that we need to make to this vision? So that's how I would combine the two to make sure that we're all grounded in the same concepts moving forward.
Nick, as we get ready to wrap up, I have a couple more questions for you, then I'll let you go. What advice would you give someone that is just now stepping into their first leadership role?
Number one, get a mentor that you trust and respect. It could be someone that you've reported into in the past. I would say get some sort of coach, 100% get a coach, preferably outside the organization, just to get a unbiased perspective on things that you should be doing, things that you should be looking for. And I would say also invest in yourself. And it's okay to spend a few dollars to do that, whether it's online courses. LinkedIn's got a bunch of courses that are, nominal and free of charge. But even if there was a charge, it's an investment in you. And then lastly, surround yourself with people that that you could learn from. And that's your network. And there's, we're blessed with, like, say, a LinkedIn type of social network where we could not only learn, but also connect with other people. So surround yourself with people that you want to learn from. Those are, I would say, 4 different areas that a new leader should make their priority.
My final question for you, Nick, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
All right. Well, I kind of done my homework, Crystal. So we have a guest that I think would be a great entrepreneur, great story to tell. Her name is Tracy Doyle, and she actually is in the process of finalizing her book. And her book is, the name of the book I have right here, I just want to make sure I read it properly, is Life Storms, Finding Your Clear Sky.
Oh, I'm intrigued already.
Yes. So I think you would enjoy, having Tracy on your podcast, Crystal. I think she'll be a great guest. I think she'll be sharing her story, a lot of great moments that from her story that she took and parlayed that into her successful business. I'm sure she'll be able to share that story. So I would recommend her.
Nick, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I appreciate it so much.
Crystal, it's been my great pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
To my community, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get Nick's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.